Hey everybody, welcome to Osmosis Training. We're glad you chose us as your software training site. Today we're going to do a little quick introduction video to 3D Studio Max and hope you enjoy it. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me open 3D Studio Max. This is actually version 2010. If you've never been in 3D Studio Max before, this all looks probably foreign to you. But we're going to get right into it and show you the basics on this first video. Up at the top left hand corner of your screen, you'll notice a little 3D Studio Max symbol. Just click on that and you'll get a drop down list with all the options for opening, closing, saving, importing, exporting, so on and so forth. This first button is for creating a new file. You can do a new all, which creates a completely new file without any settings on past files embedded into your file. You can also create a new drawing and keep the objects in the existing file that you're in, and it just creates basically a copy of a file that you're in. Keep objects in hierarchy. This has to do with keeping the objects hierarchy constraints that the objects hold to each other. Reset gives you default settings in an empty scene, as you can see, and it just restarts Max from its default settings. It takes out everything in the viewports in the scene and gives you a fresh start. Open, of course, opens any existing Max file. If you click on open, you'll see that it only accepts .max files, .drf files, character files. This dialog box is also resizable, so if you click and drag on the bottom right hand corner of the dialog box, you'll be able to resize it. Open from Vault lets you open a file from an existing Vault account. We have Vault 2009 and 2010. Saving a file just lets you save this file that we're in to whatever folder that you want on your computer, and it will save it as a .max unless you specify otherwise. Save as will save this file as a separate copy. So for example, if you're working in a scene and you want to save a copy of that scene into another file or as another file, you can do it with the save as. And another feature that's pretty cool in Max is you can let's say we're going to call this test 1. We can use this little plus button over here, and that will save this file back and rename it automatically test 01. This gives a numerical order to all your files and gives them a sequence. You also have a save selected, saves only the objects in the current scene. Archive zips up your current 3D Studio Max file and also grabs all the maps and textures, lighting information that you may have imported in. It grabs everything that has to do with this 3D Studio Max file and zips it up into an archive file. Import. This is if you want to import files from other software. There's a long list of files that 3D Studio Max will import, as you can see in this list here. You can even import Adobe Illustrator files, FBX files from AutoCAD, DWG files from AutoCAD, etc. You can also merge objects from other Max scenes. So it lets you select a Max scene that's already existing out there, and you can grab stuff from that scene and merge it into the current file. Replace takes all the scene from an existing file and replaces the current scene. in your file. Export allows us to export objects in our Max file out to certain file types. And you can see there's a long list of file types here. That's enough for the file drop down. Let's look at viewports. I think it's important when you first get into Max that you're able to navigate through the viewports and actually create something. That's what kind of makes it exciting and makes you want to learn more about Max. You have 4 viewports by default, and they're set up in a top, front, left, and perspective format. You click in each viewport to activate that particular viewport. Your middle mouse button allows you to pan and zoom if you have a roller on your middle mouse. You can also maximize a viewport by either clicking here in the top left hand corner of your viewport and say maximize viewport, or you can use the Alt W as your keyboard shortcut. And I'll show you how to create a simple object in Max. By default, the Create tab is active and Geometry is active also by default. You'll notice you'll have a list of primitive objects here that you can create. Box, I'll select it and create a box in my top viewport just by clicking and dragging the left mouse button, release it, and then push your mouse up. Click once with the left mouse button and then right click to accept that. I always say that it really doesn't matter how you create your objects in the beginning, because you have full function over changing the parameters of that object in the Modify tab. And we'll get to the Modify tab in our next lesson. Hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Come back and learn more about Max. Thanks.